In this video, I'm going to reveal how I managed to become a software engineer in 8 months without a bootcamp, without a degree, and without any prior experience. And I'll be leaving you with my advice on how you can double your salary in 2025 with tech. But before that, let's rewind to over 5 years ago. I was working as a radiographer in the National Health Service in the UK. I was very underpaid, very burnt out, and I needed a change. I studied radiography as a degree, but when it came to actually working as a radiographer and really going out into the real world, I realized this isn't for me. My salary was barely covering what I needed to live, and I was definitely not saving any money. And the only way I could do that is if I got into a different industry where I could work from home or end up starting my own business. But at the time, I didn't know anything about business. I just knew I needed to learn how to build things. Luckily, I came across a YouTube channel that lit a fire under me for the next 8 months. This channel was from a guy named Chris the Freelancer. He managed to teach himself how to code, and I think within 3 months he got this part-time gig, which he then used to move to Indonesia. I would watch almost all of his vlogs on his travels to Bali, Thailand, Morocco, Brazil, and I just knew I needed to do something like this. He was really doing it, living my dream. So that's when my plan was born. Over the next 2 weeks, I did endless research on how to become a software engineer. And it turns out around 50% of engineers don't actually have a degree. Bootcamps and teaching yourself on how to code has been a thing for many years, and I just needed to get on that wave. So I told myself I had a pretty good chance at getting a role. And look, I'll be completely honest, I kind of got lucky here. Because when I started my coding journey, I avoided the one mistake that so many beginners fall into. It's a trap that gets you so demotivated, you'd probably want to quit. So listen carefully. What I did that most people don't do is make myself a detailed 6-month roadmap on exactly what I was going to learn, how I was going to learn it, the projects that I'll build, and when I'll start job searching. So this was 2020, May or June, and I knew after 6 months, I really needed to catch on to the hiring boom of January, February. If I started to look for a role in January, what happens usually is in the recruitment process in the UK and the US and other countries is a lot of jobs will go out in October, November, but because of Christmas, there'll be a break and things will stop and slow down. January, things will pop up and speed up quite fast. So I knew I needed to hit that mark from January to March. The other period is like September to October or September to November. But seeing as it was already the summertime, I knew I still needed to learn and take around 6 months. So making a roadmap meant that I didn't waste any time jumping between different programming languages or different tech roles. I knew that the easiest role to get into was front-end development, which will then end up making full-stack development, which is learning back-end as well, like databases and back-end languages, easier. I just knew that front-end was the way to go, and I went all in. And this really put me ahead, which is how I managed to get a role in 8 months, and this is why I'm sharing it with you. And by the way, you can download the roadmap that I used in the link in the description below. Now, having said all that, learning and making some kind of plan is not enough. You still need to avoid these 2 mistakes that will stop you from landing interviews. The first one is being stuck in tutorial hell. Look, we've all been there. You would watch endless tutorials on YouTube and maybe Udemy, and when it comes to actually building and coding, your mind goes blank and you have no idea what to do without watching the tutorial again. Here's what I did early on, which made me a little bit uncomfortable, but in the end made it so that I would build my own projects and explain my code in interviews, which landed me a job. In fact, the very first interview I got, I landed the role. The solution is to only watch halfway through the tutorial and do the rest yourself. So I made a to-do list mixed with a timer and made a Pomodoro timer. Let's say you watch the YouTube video for about half of it. Then you close the video and try and build the rest of the app yourself. That way your neural pathways start building and you realize that you don't actually have to memorize lines of code or syntax. Instead, you realize that the best way to learn how to code is to build things in small chunks. So ask Google, ChatGPT, whatever, certain questions when you get stuck and learn how to problem solve. Software engineers in 2025 aren't the same as they were in 2020, 2018, 2015. With AI, we can search for answers a lot quicker. AI won't replace software engineers, but those software engineers who don't know how to use AI will be replaced. Now, the second common mistake that stops you from landing jobs is waiting too long before you go out for interviews. It took me just under 6 months to really have the audacity to go out for jobs. Like like I said, I had no degree in this, I had no prior experience, and I knew only way to get a role is to just apply before I think I'm ready. Otherwise, I'll always just overthink and never actually go out looking, or when I do go looking, it'll be a half-assed approach. The reason why I said I had the audacity to look for jobs within 6 months is because of the way I laid out my CV. Every project that I did, it took me, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks to do. I would actually put that as experience on my CV. Now, obviously, the recruiter or hiring manager kind of knows that, but just the way I laid it out shows that I took my time with this project. And this is kind of one of the reasons why in the bootcamp, Pivot Tech Coding Bootcamp, we have an internship. An internship where students can work from our other company and work with other engineers, senior engineers, designers, and get that experience. Experience is everything. I never really had that experience, so I just laid it out, all my projects, and I took time with every project. I had a Kanban board, I would do design, development. I would treat each project like a mini startup, which is really how you're going to look impressive to these recruiters and hiring managers. You need to also be able to talk through every line of code you make when you're showing off your projects. Because one thing you need to remember is the real experience comes from the actual job. And a lot of recruiters know that. The guy that hired me, he was also a self-taught developer, and he put in the description of the job application, he was like, if a self-taught developer, please apply. And I saw that in a couple of other job adverts as well. So how do you actually get a job as someone with no experience? Well, the first thing you should do is learn how to use LinkedIn as a personal brand. I've seen a few people, recently my students, but before I started the bootcamp, when I was looking for jobs like 5 years ago, I saw that these people would easily get jobs, like these junior to mid engineers. They'd get headhunted very easily. And I was like, how did they do it? Until I really got a close look at their LinkedIn page. And they would basically be posting almost every day. If they're building a side project, they'd post about it. Any new tech they hear about, they'd post about it. Anything they learn in their current job, even if it's not tech related, they'd publish it and they'd post it everywhere. So using LinkedIn helps recruiters find you, hiring managers find you. It gives you more credibility because nowadays a CV is not enough. You need a portfolio website and some sort of online presence. You don't have to go on TikTok and dance and do all that nonsense. You don't even have to go on Instagram. 2 places where you can find jobs is X, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So have an account, make a professional profile, make sure you aren't afraid of just putting yourself out there, especially if you're scared of publicly announcing your goals. It's completely normal. It's actually recommended to go out there and tell people you're learning software engineering and you're on this journey. Another way you can really hack yourself into a job is to build out websites for local businesses. You can do it free, you can do it on the cheap, you can make it more complex by building a custom database for them. You can build out a content management system that's from scratch. You can do SEO for them. All these different things gets you hired because that's what software engineers are, and that's what entrepreneurs are. They're builders. You know, if you think about the richest people in the world, Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, they were all developers. Nowadays, you really need to know your way around computers to really just make money a lot quicker and without trying to do the whole SMMA or agency thing. So that's it from me. If you got any type of value from this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future videos. Take care.